Welcome to Blue Talks.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am so honored to be here at the prestigious MIT in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Even more honored to share this stage with many of fine speakers today. I'm going to be talking to you today about the process to personal greatness. Let me start by saying this. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about you shrinking so that others won't feel insecure around you. Now, those are two lines from the poem by Marianne Williamson, Our Deepest Fear. The poem itself became popular during the movie Coach Carter, starring Samuel L. Jackson. Now, when I first heard that poem, it just resonated deep inside of me. Because the poem itself talks about the importance of being different, the importance of standing out. In society today, we are under so much pressure to conform and to fit in. Unfortunately, that goes against all our natural instincts. We were made different. In nature, there's a certain group of animals that are naturally built to conform. I'm talking about zebras. Zebras are really hard to tell apart. In fact, that's why they're made that way. They're made to look alike so lions can't get them. Unfortunately, it makes it really hard for scientists to study them as well. So a group of scientists said, what am I going to do about this? So they said, well, let's put some red dots on these guys so we can distinguish them. And they were successful. They were able to get the data they needed to study their zebras. But a couple of lions were quite happy as well, because the lions got an easy lunch. So why am I telling you this? Because we went against nature's instincts when we made the zebras stand out. But we're not zebras. We were made to stand out. We were made to be different. Like I said, I'm going to talk about the process to greatness. And when I did that, I wanted to look at some of the great people in the world. So I picked 4 undeniable people to take a look at. Steve Jobs, Wayne Gretzky, hometown boy, Michael Jordan, and Walt Disney. They have many great attributes. The one that just jumps out to me was their willingness to be different. Their willingness, the fact that they celebrated the fact that they were unique. They didn't want to be like everybody else. That's one of the things that made them so absolutely great. And that's one of the first things you're going to do to be great. Raise your hand if when you walk in a room, like we did today, the first thing you do is you look around, you say, yeah, okay, what's everybody doing? Who's mingling where? Who's mingling what? Because we want to fit in. When we first walk in a room, the first thing we want to do is we want to fit in. We don't want to stand out, whether we're 6 feet tall like Nick or not. We don't want to stand out, we want to fit in. But I'm telling you, you want to get the most out of life, the most out of an experience, don't stand out. Stand out. Don't fit in. The front row here, it took a while for the front row to get filled up. What's the first place that gets sold out at a concert? Front row, because that's where the action is. Okay? In the classroom, it's usually the last place to fill up. But if you want to learn and you want to get something out of your time, front row in the class, front row in the conference. That's where the learning happens. Now, my process to greatness started a couple years back. So I'm going to give you a quick backstory. See, Mom, breast cancer survivor, strong woman for 20 plus years, always strong, and all of a sudden she got this liver pains. Took her into the hospital, liver cancer. So we had to put her in the hospital. But it was March 2020. And I think we will all know what happened in March 2020. Because all of a sudden, boom, COVID. just dropped on us. It changed everything. Changed how we do things locally, how we do them internationally. So for me personally, we didn't have COVID, but we had visitor restrictions. So I was a teacher, so I was teaching online. So I got to spend time with Mom. I also became the sole visitor because I was a local boy. I got to spend every day with my mom up in the hospital. Fantastic times. Now don't feel sorry, because for me, it was a blessing. How much time often do you get to spend time with your dying mom? So fast forward a little bit, we took her home so she could be in the comforts of the home with me and my family. She passed in May 2020. A couple months later, Dad gets diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Kind of ironic that his greatest asset, his mind, was also his detriment at the end. So we put Dad in a retirement home. Once again, sole visitor. Got to see him 4 or 5 times a week for an hour or 2 at a time. Completely unforgettable experience. Excuse the Alzheimer's pun. But those times I got to spend with him are great. He passed away a year and 10 days after Mom passed. So here I am, all this time in my hands, thinking, what do I do? I spent so much time focusing on Mom and Dad. I'm in a real quandary. My eldest daughter says, Dad, take care of yourself. I said, what? She said, take care of yourself. So I looked in the mirror. I said, yeah, wow, you're like 300 pounds, bro. So I had to start taking care of myself. So my own personal journey, I went from 300 to 220-ish. Still working on it. But I was able to delve in to what I call the process to personal greatness. Now, many people can talk about what it takes to be great. I lived it. I authentically lived it, still living it, because I'm still working hard at it, on what it takes to be great. So what is this process I keep yakking about? 3 main steps: acceptance/awareness, action, and accountability. Irina today talked about how important it is for us to have self-awareness. We have to know where we are before we can move forward. We have to be aware of our situation before we can do anything. We got to be aware of those dares crossing the street. We got to be aware when we need to slow down so we don't hit any more Bambis or Bambi's parents, as my friend Mark said earlier today. Once we're aware of where we are, we can start making those steps forward. But before we start making steps forward, we got to be aware we want to go. We can't just get in our car and drive. We got to be aware of where we want. And that's where goals come into play. I like to say we need to have mega goals. You need to have goals that are way up here. Aim for that moon, and you hit a few stars along the way. So we know where we are, we know where we want to go. It's also the acceptance part. We have to be able to accept our situation. Accept the fact that, things ain't working. I got to be there. We got to get out of that denial stage. Once we accept the fact that things aren't right, and we can accept the fact that we need help. Nick was talking earlier today about how we got help from people. When we accept the help, we can move forward. So we accept and we're aware of where we are. Awareness is so important. Raise your hand if when you walk into a doctor's office, they ask you a bunch of questions. Your doctor, your physio. I know mine do, the good ones do, because they need to be aware of what your situation is. You can't fix yourself until you know what to fix. So now we got the awareness. Okay, we know where we want to go. Now we got to start doing the action. Oh yeah, we all like the action. We like the action Jackson, man. I could sit here and talk to you for hours about the steps, the action steps you need to take. I'm going to give you a general process, and I'm going to tell you why. Everybody is unique. I talked about the differences earlier. Everybody's unique. Everybody's going to have unique steps to their process. I don't want you reading a book, because no book is going to be able to nail down what you need to do for your steps. You're not going to train the same way I train at the gym. You're not going to eat the exact same food I eat. You're going to find what's applicable to you. But in that process, there are a couple things you need to be aware of. 3 main words. You need to do the work. No deniable there. Undeniable there. But along the way, a couple of things are going to happen. One, it's going to get lonely sometimes. But coach, you said you get some help. Yeah, I did. But you're not always going to have someone behind you going, rah, rah, lifting you up. Sometimes it's going to be you versus you. I call those the 1v1 moments. Those are the times when you are going to have to push yourself. Those are the times you have to hold yourself accountable, which we're going to talk about in a minute. The other thing you need to know quickly is you're going to fail. What? Why even bother? I'm going to fail. Because failure is where life is learned. Failure is where life lessons are learned. Any great coach is going to tell you that more lessons are learned from a loss than they are from a win. And we're not telling you that to motivate the players. We're telling you that because it's fact. We learn so much more from our losses than we do from our wins. We learn what we need to do better. The wins can be fluky or lucky, but our losses reveal what we need to do. Wayne Gretzky and his Oilers in the 80s, they played the Islanders. They lost the first time around, walked by their dressing room, and Wayne remembers looking in and seeing Trottier and Potvin saying, wow, they're not celebrating. They're just tired. Wayne said, we need to work harder next year. We need to make sure we are exhausted at the end of the year. And the rest is history. Brantford Boy brought home a couple Stanley Cups for us. But he learned from his lessons. That's how we learn. Next thing we do, once we learn what we need to do, we can then start figuring out what actions need to be taken. So that's where the accountability comes into play. So we've talked about acceptance and awareness, talked about action, accountability. Accountability is in so many different forms. For me personally, it's not just the pounds, it's the percentage body fat. For some of you, everybody's going to be accountable to their business partner or their partner in life. Self-accountability is important as well. Raise your hand if you meet someone you haven't seen in a while and the first thing they ask you is, how you doing today? It's just common. We just say, how you doing? How many of you ask yourself that same question? Ask yourself, hey, how you doing? Sorry, Joey. Ask yourself, how you doing? Did I do what I needed to get done? Was I productive? Did I have a good day? Okay? John Wooden, the great coach from UCLA, says, if you were better than you were yesterday, then you were successful. So ask yourselves, did I take care of what I needed to take care of today? That's your accountability factor right there and then. My students hold me accountable in many different ways. The one that comes to my mind right now is I gave them an assignment on biographies. And they went out and they knocked it out because we're on computers now. Got them back, I looked at them, and I went, whoa, not my students. Gave it back to them the next day. I said, folks, these are weak. Well, I could tell them that because we had that relationship. I wasn't mad at them because it wasn't their fault. It was our fault. I didn't give them the proper resources. I didn't teach them well enough. So instead of getting mad at them, I said, well, what needs to be fixed? What needs to be properly done? So we went back. We made the adjustments. I retaught them. They did them again. Boom, knocked them out of the park. Because I said I need to be accountable to them. So once we knew what we were accountable, what adjustments needed to be made, we became aware, went back to the action, and accountability again. Everything works together in a process. You can't have one without the other. In the fitness industry, we say you can't out-train a bad diet. You could lift for 12 hours a day, but if you're having 12 Big Macs afterwards, nothing's going to work. So everything has to work together. When you're doing the work, you're going to come up at times and thinking, gee, what do I do? You're going to have so many decisions to make. I want you to change a couple things in your life. Change the to-dos to must-dos. Put a couple must-dos on your list. Because when you have a must-do, those are things that are getting done regardless. No matter what goes on in your life, you're taking care of these things. I use this fundamental strategy in my life. Because when you listen to Zen masters, they talk about Tibetan monks who live up in the mountains, who have to chop wood and carry water just for survival. So my wood and my water is my exercising regularly and eating properly. They're my fundamentals. Do you have fundamentals in your life? Do you have things that you need to get done to be successful? You do those, and you follow the process. You are going to be successful. You're going to reach your own level of greatness. Let me talk about greatness for a minute. Because everybody has their own level of greatness. I know that. Okay? I want you to define your level of greatness. Whether it's getting up in the morning and going for a walk, whether it's going to the gym 5 days a week, or one of my family members just riding a bike again. Everybody's level is different. I don't want you to compare your level of greatness to this person's, because that's what makes us special, is we each have our own unique level of greatness. It's not about being like the guy next door. It's about being like you, taking care of your best self. Because I don't want you to be like him. I want you to stand out. It's our differences that really make us special. Where would we be if we didn't have people like Walt Disney in our world? Okay? Walt Disney took the time to create stories that we all love. Who doesn't love a good Disney movie, whether it's Frozen or mine, The Lion King? Okay? Without the greatness of Walt, our lives would be so bleh, because he took the time to be different. We're all impacted by Steve Jobs with our phones. Okay? Now, Steve is interesting. Steve followed his own process, but he did a little bit of shortcut on here. I'm going to go off track for a second here. He did a little bit of a shortcut. His decision making, he made his decision making a little bit easier with his must-dos. He wore the same outfit every day, so he had one less decision to make. So if you can make your to-do list a little bit shorter by that way, go for it. Maybe you can be the next Steve Jobs. Maybe you can be the next Mark Zuckerberg. But most importantly, I want you to continue to be yourself. I want you to go out there, don't be afraid to be different and be great. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.